Let me begin by saying that I am so excited to be hosting today's webinar on club assessment and visioning in the Membership Matters webinar series. We have a great presentation lined up for you today with some fantastic speakers. This is a 5-part series that will cover the steps you can take in your club to improve the member experience and to grow your club's membership. Today's webinar will introduce you to the club assessment and visioning process, which can be used to create a plan of action for your club. Today's presentation will be in 3 sections. The first part of the webinar will explain why club assessments are valuable to clubs and to members, and also to discuss the resources available from Rotary to assist you. The second section will describe the visioning process and turning a club's vision into a plan of action. Lastly, we will conclude the webinar by getting feedback from you with an interactive question and answer session. Now I would like to introduce our first panelist for today's presentation. Joe Brownlee has been with Rotary International for 10 years and is the General Manager and Chief Strategy Officer here at Rotary. Joe is also a member of the Rotary Club of Evanston and also a recurring presenter on the topic of strategy and club assessments, as well as other topics. Joe and our featured speaker, past District Governor Steve Wilcox, presented on the topic of club assessment and visioning at the 2014 RI Convention in Sydney, Australia. And we have asked them to recapture some of that well-received presentation here today. Joe, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sheena. It's a pleasure to be here. I see a lot of familiar names, and I look forward to exchanging ideas and sharing information with you all. I recognize there are some major successes and challenges Rotarians and clubs are seeing. I hope we can show you just some of the things Rotary International is trying to do to help you and other clubs around the world. Everyone understands the importance of assessing one's performance and progress towards their individual or collective goals. That's in life, in business, and even in our volunteer efforts. Like many individuals and organizations, Rotary clubs should evaluate what they do well, what they could improve on, and what they need to stop doing. In my opinion, Winston Churchill summarizes evaluation best. It is not easy nor free from conflict, but it helps create a lens for considering change for the good. So let's stop and reflect. How would you evaluate your Rotary Club experience today? Would you say everything is going well? You have engaged, satisfied members who are diverse in every way, impacting the community in positive ways with great leaders, events, and programs that are well known in the community, and most importantly, you're having fun. Or is your club struggling, where it's just not fun? Nothing has really changed. You've had very little interest from the public, and membership is declining in growth, satisfaction, and representation from the community. No matter where you fall, A, B, or somewhere in between, it is so important to think about your club's future, to imagine ambitiously, to push the innovative spirit of your members, and to create an environment where every mover and shaker in the community wants to be part of our great organization. Take a moment and look back over this list. Everyone, I think everyone on this webinar wants to experience the column A experience. We will talk about things that you can do in your club to achieve that goal. Rotary International is here to support you. We are focused on supporting all clubs throughout the world. Our strategic plan is focused on 3 key priorities based on input from over 20,000 Rotarians in the past 5 years of research. We are here to support and strengthen clubs through strategies that create innovation, flexibility, growth, diversity, and much, much more. 2, providing support and resources to focus and increase Rotarian service efforts around polio eradication, our 6 areas of focus, and programs supporting youth and young leaders. And 3, helping our 1.2 million member sales force to enhance the image of Rotary and promote the value of being part of this great organization. We know many clubs are doing so much. We hope through the implementation of Rotary International's strategic plan, we at Rotary International can help you and clubs be even better and do much more. In the March 2014 survey about the future of Rotary, a representative sample of Rotarians told us that membership recruitment, retention, and diversity are top strategic issues for their clubs today and in 10 years. In addition, a fairly significant group of respondents felt that innovation, modernization, flexibility, and simplification of rules and the processes in Rotary and our clubs are major obstacles in furthering Rotary's cause. One might conclude we have a product issue. I define our product as the club experience, meeting the needs of our members, prospective members, and our surrounding community. What we want to offer today are ways to explore what is or not working in your clubs and how best to adjust your activities and approaches in delivering the Rotary experience. The March 2014 survey further explored feedback from club members around involvement, networking, and matching of skills. Any trend over 20% or greater in the negative needs some attention. We realize that membership retention is our greatest challenge. We lose roughly 100,000 members per year globally. And getting members engaged early and often around what matches their skill sets or interests is the key to retaining members. The data shows that roughly 20% of our members are not involved or engaged to the level that meets their needs. Again, the March 2014 data shows that less than half of our clubs have some form of a longer-term strategic plan. While a long-term plan in itself does not lead to success, it does help ensure clarity of direction and continuity from one year to the next. My friend Steve Wilcox will talk about how the annual cycle of Rotary doesn't typically lend itself to continuity and commitment to a focused approach. And I promise this is the last slide with data. I'm a bit of a data geek. A club with a strategic plan doesn't automatically mean that the club is strong, nor a strong club doesn't necessarily succeed solely because it has a plan. But there are some interesting comparisons here. We found that a club with a strategic plan has a 16-point higher rating of the members' experiences in the club than those that don't have one. Now, you can interpret this data in many ways, but the strategist in me concludes there is a positive correlation, but I know I am biased. We all recognize that many businesses and organizations have a life cycle. From their beginning, at some point in time, are likely to hit a plateau of growth or success. Thus, strong organizations proactively anticipate those plateaus and reinvent their products and or services before they begin to flatten. Some don't, and they have to react to chaos or wake-up calls before they reemerge, while others don't do anything and meet their ultimate demise. Rotary has grown significantly in the past 50 years in expansion, members, donations, service efforts, and recognition. I believe we continue today to provide value to our members, but has the time come to transform our products because we've hit a bit of a plateau in our ability to demonstrate value to those who want it the most, the next generations and the soon-to-be or recently retired population. The competitive landscape in the volunteer and civic service arena is overloaded with supply, more options today than ever before. Rotary clubs must differentiate their value to their community and engage those who want to be part of us. What is the best way for you to understand your club's future, transform your product if need be, and stay relevant to today's market and societal needs? We need to question the status quo and identify ways to continue to grow Rotary and help it prosper another century. I know my club is going through these same challenges. We've looked in the mirror and said we need to change. We have concluded we need to engage our community in totally different ways. We're making progress, but it's not easy, and it's typically slow. Rotary International wants to help you with this difficult task. We provided a set of tools to help evaluate your club and set longer-term goals. Through the club assessment tools, or the club leadership plan, or the strategic planning guide, or Rotary Club Central on Rotary.org, we're trying to provide you the resources to help guide the clubs through a process in collaboration with your district and or regional leadership teams. They're important resources as well. The club assessment tool is getting a new look and new name in 2015. Be on the lookout for it. But the same concepts will be included. Evaluate your club. Identify your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities for improvement. Get feedback, not only from your clubs, but it's important to talk to community members about what they might want out of Rotary. Discuss with your members and your board how to correct the weaknesses and take advantage of those opportunities. And it's important not to bite off more than you can chew. Implement a few key initiatives to address what you can change and monitor how it's going and check in regularly. Be a vibrant club. Rotary depends on our clubs to shine the light on everything Rotary does. Implement some or all of the best practices. Use the planning worksheet to help put a plan into place. We all need your help to make Rotary better. My final thought. We know that being a Rotarian isn't supposed to be a job. I know that. Being a Rotarian is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. Giving your time back, giving your time to give back. People's time is a valuable resource. We don't want this to feel like work. We want it to be fulfilling in volunteering your experience and time. So while we've emphasized the benefits of evaluation and shown you some tools Rotary International has provided, it's more important that you use something that fits the needs of your club. But it is more important, especially if you fit into column B or close to column B, that you do something now to assess where your club stands. If not now, when? Thank you. I hope I have provided some insight into the information Rotary International is providing. Back to you, Sheena.
Absolutely wonderful. Joe, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing your vast knowledge regarding evaluation and club assessments.
Thank you for having me, Sheena.
We look forward to hearing from you again during the question-answer portion of the webinar. And for all of our webinar attendees out there right now, if you missed the resources listed at the end of Joe's presentation, fear not. Those resources will be shown again during the question-and-answer session at the end of this webinar. But at this time, I would like to bring out our next panelist, past District Governor Steve Wilcox. Steve has over 40 years of experience as a serial entrepreneur with firsthand experience owning, growing, and exiting businesses. 25 years serving and leading nonprofit boards, 15 years of experience as a strategic execution specialist, and over 12 years of experience in training and facilitating visioning exercises with Rotary clubs. Thank you for joining us here today, Steve.
Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity on all counts for us to navigate the next stage following Joe's excellent presentation of Rotary International's overview, insights, and resources. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're all Rotarians. We think in terms of how can we best deliver service. Rotary is a collection of 34,558 clubs. And each of us in the 1.2 million category of Rotarians is exceptionally in our opportunity to deliver to our cultures. What is interesting from my perspective is how each of us navigates the overview of individual culture as it relates to our community and the people and circumstances. For over a dozen years, a number of your fellow Rotarians have been focused on the vision planning process that celebrates the unique culture of each club facilitated. When a club's leaders and members understand who they are and why they are different from every other Rotary and service club in their geographical area, they can be very specific in their delivery to their members, their community, and the wonderful world of Rotary. Today's webinar speaks to this club level event. As we navigate forward into why is a plan needed, these are the incredible experiences that come from what we do and how we deliver this in every possible way. The tradition of annual cycles has not been effective. We have presidential leadership year over year, and the opportunity to serve in your year of service does not enhance itself to a multi-year coordinated plan. The ultimate goal is the need for greater continuity, consistency, and consensus through the process of a plan and how that interrelates. When this is relevant to the community and communicated both inside the club and outside with public image, retention and recruiting becomes easier. Club vision is a living management tool. It is defined and shared commitment among those present. Simply stated, as club and district leaders, our organization will benefit when clubs see themselves not as they are, but as they can become. When you have a living management tool like a plan, a vision statement, a number of elements and resources that celebrate and centralize the thoughts and uniquenesses of your club, that's when it creates a framework to establish goals and objectives. This management tool will then allow that year-over-year cycle and optimize the use of resources. Your resources are your people, and your people need to be pulling in the same direction. If you can envision yourself over a year-to-year continuity of a stair step, that is pretty much what we're looking at in the strength of applying some form of planning and from our perspective, beginning with a club visioning plan. When you have an annual plan, projects and programs are able to be recognized and makes our organization strong. This stair step of leadership represents more than just your year. It represents all that came before you and the legacy that follows. This is your leadership toward club planning. You want clubs to capitalize on their unique history, to develop during this year, and to anticipate the future. When clubs internalize this staircase, club presidents realize they don't have to do it all in their year. The implementation of specific visions will often exceed the 12 months they are in office. They can be comfortable knowing that they have ascended another step on the staircase that built on the past, emphasized the present, and was a precursor to the future. Through club leadership plans, the effective clubs are able to sustain and increase membership, implement successful service projects, support our Rotary Foundation, and develop leaders beyond the club level. Let me take a moment on the club leadership plan and the effective components associated with that. To strengthen Rotary at the club level by providing the administrative framework of an effective club. Joe showed earlier the club leadership planning document that Rotary International introduced several years ago. The club leadership plan is vital to the stability and success of Rotary during our second century of service. It is based on the practices of successful Rotary clubs, and these clubs are at all sizes. Rotary has Rotary clubs in the 20s and Rotary clubs in the hundreds. But the club leadership plan has a model that helps to provide that administrative framework. Its purpose is to strengthen Rotary at the club level, but by providing the administrative framework of an effective club. Successful organizations employ these steps to a solid action plan. The vision to plan process starts out the cycle with solidifying a club's vision and builds towards a long-range plan that your club can put into actions and programs for a number of years. Many tools for planning exist. Certainly, if you asked in your club meeting for your fellow Rotarians to talk about strategic planning, many hands would have raised because they had been associated with the delivery of a strategic plan to their organization or place of work, or they had been involved in leading that planning process. Seek out who those individuals are in your club that can lead your club from a vision through the long-range plan and bring and accentuate those actions and programs that represent your club's culture. By embracing this planning process and having some resources available either within your district as a district team or within your community of someone who can come from the outside of your club and help facilitate the planning process. The clarity that will come from this process will provide the alignment within your club of activities and direction, promoting membership strength in retention and growth. The basic planning questions that any good facilitator would lead a club through are outlined in this slide. When you answer for your club who you are and where are you in terms of your positioning geographically, your role within your community, your district, and all the service that you're able to provide, where do you want to be? What are those goals of your club? If you're a young club, a millennial club, you're going to have different roles than a more seasoned club of Rotarians in large cities and in communities where Rotary has been present for years and years. How will you get there? What are the steps that you're going to take in terms of a proactive, more than 1 year program that takes aspects like our international programs that often bridge a year of a presidency and moves into multi-year cycles? And how will you know when you have arrived? One of the key aspects that we believe in celebrating that individual culture is to celebrate that through a mission, passion, and vision statement. I'll offer up a couple of vision statements of clubs that I've been associated with planning over the years. One of our clubs, volunteering to improve lives locally and globally. That's a Rotary club in Australia that has circled the wagons of their club around the volunteering notion and make a real difference by marketing and managing their hours of service over their dollars of delivery. We start on time, we end on time, we have a good time. That's a Rotary club in the Western United States. That's their focus, and of course fun is in a part of this. And the last that I will share is one that really puts its arms around how the clubs use their mission statement to employ their fundraising and their fund disbursement and service disbursement. It reads as such: enhancing opportunities for youth, creating a better community for all. When the Rotary clubs have a mission and vision type statement that they can all rally around, we find a tremendous amount of traction towards how that Rotary club is viewed in the community externally and internally. And this leads to Rotary happening at the club level. All service is Rotarian and club generated. Rotary International and all of our districts support this outcome. Think about the cultures of the clubs in your district. How could your district not emulate those cultures that your club and your fellow clubs and Rotarians in your district emulate? Districts represent the cultures of the clubs in that geographical area. And the district supports the club in their thinking, keeping the Rotary International strategic plan as their marker. This represents an element of strategic focus and thinking relationship to the strategic plan. Of course, this is the good work of Rotary International and the board in 2010 affirming this again in 2013. It demonstrates our Rotary International focuses activities on supporting and strengthening and developing our clubs to fulfill Rotary's overall mission. Clearly, membership grows from strong and viable clubs, and the appeal of Rotary continues to lie in Rotary's service and networking initiated through our clubs. Rotary has to promote the benefits of the network, align Rotary International and our Rotary Foundation programs with the most popular humanitarian service interests of your Rotarians in your club. Polio eradication remains a clear humanitarian priority. It was evident from the surveys and research that Rotarians demanded focus from RI to support club service efforts in other key humanitarian projects. The Rotary International Strategic Planning Committee and our board agreed that focus on the Rotary Foundation's 6 areas of focus, youth and young adults, should yield significant outcomes with focused approaches. So the alignment of our Rotarians already is identified through primary humanitarian service interests. As we look at this circle surrounding core values of fellowship, integrity, diversity, service, and leadership, wouldn't each of our clubs embrace those basics of Rotary International? Keeping the Rotary International strategic plan as their marker. This represents an element of strategic focus and thinking relationship to the thinking, keeping the Rotary International actions and successes both locally and internationally. Our new unified brand image has produced a message keeping the Rotary International strategic plan as their marker. This represents an element of strategic focus and thinking relationship to the strategic plan. Of course, this is the good work of Rotary International and the board in 2010 affirming this again in 2013. It demonstrates our Rotary International focuses activities on supporting and strengthening and developing our clubs to fulfill Rotary's overall mission. Clearly, membership grows from strong and viable clubs, and the appeal of Rotary continues to lie in Rotary's service and networking initiated through our clubs. Rotary has to promote the benefits of the network, align Rotary International and our Rotary Foundation programs with the most popular humanitarian service interests of your Rotarians in your club. Polio eradication remains a clear humanitarian priority. It was evident from the surveys and research that Rotarians demanded focus from RI to support club service efforts in other key humanitarian projects. The Rotary International Strategic Planning Committee and our board agreed that focus on the Rotary Foundation's 6 areas of focus, youth and young adults, should yield significant outcomes with focused approaches. So the alignment of our Rotarians already is identified through primary humanitarian service interests. As we look at this circle surrounding core values of fellowship, integrity, diversity, service, and leadership, wouldn't each of our clubs embrace those basics of Rotary International while still maintaining their identity of personal culture? Portray a clear message to the world about Rotary's actions and successes, both locally and internationally. Our new unified brand image has produced a message globally that pulls all of these elements together. The top benefits as described by participants in employing a visioning and planning process within their club has fed into those statistics that Joe alluded to earlier in our presentation. We're understanding the passions of our fellow members and formulating a plan around the talents and energy and financial and personal resources of those members, producing a renewed energy and dynamic. We have a focus as a Rotary Club, producing new ideas from our new members, hearing the voices of the quiet members, coming up with a plan for our club, something that everyone buys into, and engaging members that may not be involved currently. Think about Joe's A and B poll at the beginning of our webinar and the difference. What I found most interesting was 2/3 of our polled members are viewing that they're falling in between and in that area of opportunity to move to a vibrant club. A plan will create excitement, and through that you will think big and into the future. The next couple of slides outline the impact that the visioning process, the planning process has had in areas of the UK, Canada, the United States, the island regions of the Caribbean, and Australasia, where the visioning process, the planning programs are in very, very high demand as well as delivery. But when you look at these quotes, and this is from a Canadian president with 27 members, what the vision did for us in terms of membership is that we planned a couple of events specifically around finding new members. At this point, we have a new member and at least 2 more will come on shortly. Think about the success of your club. For a small club, having a new member or 2 new members is a significant advancement. For our larger clubs, they have a larger demand. But as this next slide indicates, increasing membership by 3 new members and adding a couple more. And yes, it's increased by 10 to 15 members, and there's a club of 55 members down under in Australia. But looking at the United Kingdom segment, we do have 2 new members and attribute club as a component for that success. So as we look forward into how we are viewing these types of quotes, we are seeing the opportunity and the optimism of where the planning process is demonstrated success. One of the tools that we are employing is Rotary Club Central because it continues to evolve into our collective hub of reporting and success analysis. Each club has the opportunity to track basic measurements that support the vitality of their club. Membership growth and viability along with the termination profile assist club leaders in executing their plan for membership. By all means, each of you do what you can to make sure that your club is enrolled and that your district is enrolled, as Club Central and the tools of the Rotary International website are there for all of us in order to track our own progress and find the resources that result. The result is always an elevated ability to deliver service to your communities, and that is what we're all after, of course. Sheena mentioned earlier, as did Joe, that the Rotary resources for clubs and districts would come full circle. And yes, we have excellent tools that have been prepared collectively by our excellent Rotary International team and teams of volunteers who are deploying these tools on a daily basis in Rotary clubs like yours.
Steve, I just wanted to extend my sincerest gratitude to you for joining us here today for the second webinar in our webinar series, Membership Matters. We greatly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to speak to us today about club visioning and creating a vision for your own club. But now that we've heard from our panelists, we want to hear from you. Please use this time to send us any questions you have for our panelists using your question pod, and I will read a selection of them to our panelists for their response. In addition to submitting your questions, we would like to know what, if any, steps you feel empowered to take in your club to conduct an assessment or to create a club plan after hearing today's presentation. We will conclude this webinar by sharing some of those ideas and getting feedback from our panelists. Our first question is for Joe. This question is from Gina. Joe, our club has developed a strategic plan, but it is not used or referred to on a regular basis. Do you have suggestions on how we can use the strategic plan more regularly with our board meetings, committee planning meetings, etc.?
Thanks for the question. That's a great one, and it is important that the club's board, its leadership, use it as a recurring tool to evaluate where they stand on that plan. Most plans are not implemented because it's on a shelf, and it sounds like this example is that. What I would suggest is get quarterly reviews of that by a president, council of your club, or the board. We recognize the board is busy doing the daily operations. However, it is important to establish a regular review of that with your leadership and your membership. And we at my Rotary Club have tried to use that on a semi-annual basis, recognizing, again, this is not a job. It's supposed to be fun. I hope I answered your question. Back to you, Sheena.
Thank you so much, Joe. Our next question is from a Rotarian, also for Joe. We have started introducing the club visioning program within our district in the UK. I was under the impression that it was not designed to be directly a membership growth tool. You seem to be saying that it is. Isn't that correct?
Thank you for the question. I believe Steve is back on, and I will give you my opinion. I do not believe the club visioning process is only about membership growth. It's about strengthening your club, which results in better service, better recruitment, better growth opportunities for the club. And whatever growth means in your area, I think you should apply it. It's about strong clubs doing greater work, having more interest of the community, and getting greater awareness of Rotary's efforts. And with that, if Steve's back with us?
Well said, Joe. I would wholeheartedly agree, Joe. As club visioning has evolved into the UK and is serving Rotary in that part of our Rotary world, the membership component is an outcome. What we're experiencing over the years was the strength of a Rotary Club through the club visioning process was the objective, and the positive outcome has been membership strengthening, growth, and retention.
Thank you so much, Steve. I hope that's answered your question. Our next question comes from another Rotarian. My club, and this question is for both Joe and Steve. We'll start with Joe. My club has had a great time 4 years ago going through the visioning process, but we did not do much with the results. We want to do it again, but are not sure we should do it exactly the same way. Any thoughts, Joe?
Can I kick that to Steve? He has the real-life experience.
Absolutely. Excellent question. And what we see is about every 3 years or more to refresh that club vision plan for a Rotary Club appears to be about the timeline of greatest success, to the point of moving it from vision to plan, as the one slide in the presentation reflected this morning. The vision to plan component is how to draw that cultural uniqueness of the club visioning process into the plan process that breaks down goals and objectives for years to come. We are shifting some of the model towards a vision to plan effort, and in many of our clubs and districts that are employing club visioning to date, there is an active initiative towards building a strong plan from the vision and the visioning event.
Thank you so much, Steve. I hope that answered your question as well. Remember, we'll keep reading your questions as long as we have time during the webinar, but we'd also like to hear any steps that you feel empowered to take in your club to conduct an assessment or to create a club plan after hearing today's presentation. If anybody has any action steps, we'd love to share them with our group today. But our next question is for Joe or Steve. How do you get club members to see our club needs to have a plan?
I will take the first stab at that. That is a great question, and Steve mentioned the culture. It is important to get a core group of your membership to support the need for a longer-term plan. I recognize it's not easy in the volunteer and club environment, but it's important to rally some support to get away from the annual cycle that Steve and I have both mentioned, and you really need to get support at your board level and get their leadership skill set engaged in the importance of a longer-term plan. I know it was a challenge at our club, but it's about getting engagement at the board level first and then ultimately getting the support of your membership. I started off by a simple survey of our membership just to show that there was a quote-unquote burning platform of dissatisfaction in our club. The majority of members were not satisfied the way the club was going, and ultimately the club got engaged and bought into the need to have a plan.
I would certainly reinforce Joe's observation on the board importance. Club planning in any form will take some time unless the presidential string of 2 to 3 years through the president, president-elect, and president are in sync. When those three are in sync as far as the willingness to bring this process aboard, now you're going to have the continuity year to year to not only embrace the initial planning but also implement the plan year over year going forward. And that's where many clubs are hesitant in engagement. But when you have that kind of synergy, and it's again the power of one Rotarian bringing to their club and their board the notion that a plan is needed right now. Our club is losing steam. We don't have direction. We lack enthusiasm. It's not fun anymore. We're not retaining members. There's a whole variety of components that lead into the initiative of a planning process in any form for your club. So, and hopefully those of you that are on this webinar today feel the same passion towards a good plan for your club will bring another level of involvement and engagement of your members and the enthusiasm that goes with that.
Thank you so much, Steve. I have another question for you as well. Somebody asks, what if our local club has no one that can lead the visioning process and or no experience for leading the visioning process? How do they go about handling that?
Excellent question, and that I spoke sort of to earlier in the webinar, in the sense that most communities, most clubs have individuals who are talented and experienced in facilitation and bringing an outside viewpoint of pure facilitation to a club as a resource. Seeking out those resources in your community and within your club to ask the question, do you know of someone that could lead us in an evening event where we could do some simple planning? probably the most important component of this is having someone from outside of your club involved in doing this. They aren't going to facilitate from a perspective of a personal approach. They're going to maintain an arm's length approach to this planning process. Having and seeking out that type of expertise within your community is probably the strongest component. Now, club visioning is out there in many of our districts, and there are district teams that are at the ready to come out and facilitate for Rotary clubs. Each of you should check with your district governor and your district leadership team to see if your district has that resource available to you.
Thank you so much, Steve.
And if I could just add, I agree with everything that Steve has mentioned. Reaching out to the district to see if there's somebody within your district might be a good opportunity. I would suggest not having somebody in your club, as Steve has mentioned, do this because you want them engaged. There are opportunities to use other resources throughout your district, or training team, whatever the case may be. I also recognize there's a lot of questions about how do you get your membership engaged in wanting to commit to a 3 to 4 hour meeting, and it really is trying to establish the need or the burning platform, as I refer to it as, is are we a growing club, or are we a declining club, are we active, are we engaged? It's not just about membership, it's about engagement in the community and being a strong and effective club. It is important to make sure that members know there's an issue, and you may quite honestly lose some members going through this process because you might change your club and it is of not interest to them. And I know there are some comments about possibly losing members. We actually did lose a couple of members because they didn't agree with the direction we wanted to take. However, we have gained some membership because we are more active and more engaged in around what our members want. And so that's an important message. Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you, Joe. And Simon, I know that you had a question about the process in taking 4 hours. I hope Joe is able to answer your question as well. We have another question. Does RI have a network of strategic planners from each district worldwide?
Thank you. We have talked about using what we refer to as our cadre to build some skillful expertise. I do have to say we have not achieved that result yet, but I am writing it. I will write it down and get it to our people, and I think it's an excellent suggestion that we will take away and see what we can do.
I have a couple of people asking, it appears as though some of their members are resisting the visioning mission statements in preparation for strategic plans. I have a couple of these inquiries. How do we bring those folks into the conversation, and how do we get our club members excited and interested in the visioning process? For Steve?
Sure.
Steve, how does Carolyn get her club members excited and interested?
I think from the perspective of enthusiasm for planning, that is from an experience on my part. It's getting out there and explaining the benefits of what a planning process can bring to their Rotary Club. I think anytime you're selling, you're looking at benefits. What's in it for me as a Rotarian? And so you're selling in a way to those resistant club members who are not maybe seeing the benefits of what a unified plan for their club will bring in terms of service and financial resources, new members, all of the things that really create a vibrancy. Oftentimes there's a resistance within Rotary clubs because the place they meet is too small. We can't have any more members. We kind of like our small group, and we like to sit at the same table with our friends every week, and let's not upset this apple cart. Well, the notion of having a plan that overviews, and again, this is about the culture of the club. This doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to do a 180-degree turn and not be the Rotary Club that we were a week or a month ago as a result of planning. What we're doing is we're enhancing who we already are. We're taking that culture to another level, and we're asking for your help. Most people want to help, and I think inherently when you ask someone, even when they're resistant, you ask them to be a part of the solution. Otherwise, they're a part of the problem. So I think, Sheena, that that's probably the most important component, is the WIFM. What's in it for me, and how do you each empower those individuals who are resistant to a different way towards planning and their role in that in their Rotary Club.
And I'd just like to echo Steve's point, and another point too is there's a couple comments about how smaller clubs can reach out to larger clubs. I think that's an important piece that we haven't emphasized enough. Use your network of clubs to reach out to those clubs that you think are successful. Learn from them, experience what they're doing that is growing their club, making them active, making them engaged in the community. There's great lessons to be learned just within the network. I know from an RI perspective, we can't highlight all those. We try our best, but it's important to use that network you have at your local level to copycat to some degree what other larger clubs are doing. The smaller clubs can learn from the larger clubs and vice versa. There are very strong small clubs, and there are very strong large clubs. Use the network to help build your club.
Thank you so much, Joe and Steve. And I hope that answered the question from Brussels, Belgium. It seems as though you have a quiet percentage of your club members who pay dues but are effectively sleeping partners. So I hope Steve's response for getting all the club members involved answered your question as well. We have another question for Rotarian. This is for Steve. Within the vision to plan process, is there any single stage or step that is the most critical to the success of that entire process?
Thank you for that question. My belief personally is that that process starts with the clarity that the visioning event where you're bringing together the resources and individual Rotarians in your club to reach a consensus. Because first you must have a consensus within the ranks and then agree on those top 1, 2, or 3 elements in each of the avenues of service as an example that you're going to focus on. Thinking about your clubs in your districts, and think about a club that's near you that is different than yours. What do they focus on? Some clubs focus on youth. Others are international focused. Others are vocational focused. Each culture of each club is going to have that focus that is going to jump out of their vision plan. And that's where the starting point is. Once that is clear, then setting goals and objectives to the top 1, 2, or 3 elements that came out by consensus to your plan is the next step. When we talk about vision to plan, vision is about consensus. It's about getting your entire club membership on the same page. So you're all going forward. Picture a shell on a river where all of the oarsmen or women are pulling in the same direction. That's what you're striving for, as opposed to a rowboat where you're going in circles. Many clubs are trying to resonate with a 8-person shell going down a river in perfect harmony. Once you have that harmony, then you can build the plan around those top 1, 2, or 3 objectives in each of the 5 avenues of service. That gives each of the avenue chairs something to focus on with their committees and their club towards achieving goals over a 12 to 24 to 36 month time period, and it allows for large projects to have the enthusiasm of the club over not just one president's oversight year, but multiple. Hopefully that helps in answering that question of focus.
And I'd just like to end my comment by knowing we're coming to the end of the webinar. Change is not easy. I've seen a lot of comments and questions about trying to get those that will not support this. It is not simple. It is not easy. Change is hard in any behavior we want to deviate from that we're comfortable with. There's a lot of questions about how can we resolve some of that conflict. There is not one single simple solution. It's really, in my mind, talking to your members, recognizing there will be differences of opinions, and you just have to put everything on the table and decide which direction the club and the membership wants to take. We're challenged at RI to do that, and I can imagine every club is challenged too, but managing change is the most difficult part of this, and we will try to help you as much as we can, but that is at such an individual focus that it probably needs to happen at the club level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve and Joe. We also have an attendee who did feel empowered to start taking steps and had ideas. The attendee said, I think it's important that the districts make the visioning and strategic planning as a club requirement. Otherwise, all presidents are just in a hurry to implement projects during their one-year term, sometimes forgetting the strategic plan agreed on by their members. Thank you so much for your participation today. And I wanted to thank all webinar attendees for participating. As a follow-up to the webinar, you will receive the recording of today's session as well as the slides, so don't you worry about that. And in those slides, you'll see the various resources that RI headquarters has available to you. I would also like to thank our panelists, Joe Brownlee, General Manager and Chief Strategy Officer, as well as past District Governor Steve Wilcox for joining us today and sharing their expertise regarding club evaluation, visioning, and development. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
You are welcome.
You will also receive a survey after this webinar. Your feedback is important to us as your survey responses will be used to improve future webinars offered by Rotary International. Please take a moment to complete the survey and give us your input. On behalf of our panelists and Rotary staff, thank you for attending today's webinar. Remember, if you enjoyed today's webinar, you can register for upcoming webinars and check out the recordings of past webinars on the Rotary website at www.rotary.org/webinars. Thank you so much.